Okay, let's play a little game of word association to start things off today.
All right, I'm game.
So if I say to you, ultimate spiritual goal,
Yeah.
what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Oh, definitely the classics. Like a monk on a misty mountaintop, total silence.
Right, right.
Maybe levitating a few inches off the ground. And just, a feeling of absolute uninterrupted bliss.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
void, the peace that passes all understanding. No mortgage, no emails, just cosmic oneness. I mean, that is the scorecard we've all been sold.
Or completely. It's the standard brochure for enlightenment. You
Yeah.
escape the world, you find the peace. If you're stressed out, you're failing. But if you're blissed out, you're winning.
Well, today we are taking that exact brochure and just feeding it straight into the shredder,
We really are.
because we're diving into some incredibly fascinating source material today. And it argues that if you are chasing that state of pure bliss, you aren't actually becoming enlightened. You might just be getting high.
It is such a provocative stance. And for this deep dive, we are looking at the life and the teachings of a figure who describes himself as a blind Muslim yogi.
Which is an amazing title all on its own.
Right. And his whole thesis is that these massive peak experiences, states like samadhi or nirvana, they aren't the finish line at all.
No.
He actually views them as a developmental phase. It's almost like a spiritual puberty, honestly.
Spiritual puberty. I absolutely love that phrasing.
Yeah, and he says it's a phase that you actually have to come down from if you ever want to truly mature.
And just to orient everyone listening, this isn't coming from some academic theorist sitting in a library.
Not at all.
This is a guy who lost his physical sight, turned all his attention inward, and actually hit those massive spiritual highs, moksha samadhi, at the age of 19.
19.
19.
Yeah.
But instead of just staying in the cave, he spent the next 30-plus years as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, building businesses, managing employees, dealing with the whole corporate grind.
Exactly. He's a mystic who actually cares about P&L statements.
Hmm.
And our mission today is to unpack his core argument, which is that being a functional member of society, holding down a job, dealing with your family, ethical conduct is actually a higher spiritual station than remaining in some state of intoxicated bliss.
So let's start right there with that concept of bliss as a drug, because this part really tripped me up at first.
Let's say I'm here.
Usually when you read biographies of famous yogis, the exact moment they hit samadhi is the happy ending. The credits roll.
Cue the golden light.
Right. But for him, it sounds like that was just the beginning of the problem. He describes the experience as being functionally debilitating.
Yeah, he's very specific about this. He says that back when he was 19 and deep in these states, it felt intoxicating. And he does not use that word as a compliment.
No, intoxicate, like drunk
Yeah.
or incapacitated.
Totally incapacitated.
Yeah.
He says after a really deep session of non-dual awareness, he literally couldn't speak for an hour. His head would just be reeling.
Yeah.
He describes having these, quote, crazy thoughts and just a complete inability to focus on basic, everyday, practical tasks.
Which, I mean, that's fantastic if you live in an ashram where someone just brings you a bowl of rice every afternoon.
Exactly.
But if you have to, drive a car on the highway or answer a customer service phone line.
It's a total disaster. And he realized very quickly that this high was actually a trap. He argues that the bliss creates this sort of fog. It feels amazing, sure, but it renders you completely useless to the people around you.
And he goes so far as to say that even now, decades later, if he feels himself slipping into that specific bliss state during a meditation, he actively shakes it off.
He actively shakes off the bliss. I mean, that is the absolute opposite of what every single meditation app on my phone is trying to get me to do.
Right. We're all trying so hard to find the bliss, and he's treating it like a bad habit he's trying to kick.
Because for him, getting lost in that bliss is an imbalance. It's a form of self-indulgence. And to really understand why he thinks this, we have to look at his anatomy of the soul.
Yes, the mechanics of it.
He offers this really technical, almost mechanical explanation of how energy moves through the human body. And it completely contradicts the standard textbook model.
It really does. So let's unpack that anatomy for a second. The standard model most people know is that energy, or kundalini, starts at the base of the spine.
The root chakra.
Right. And it basically rides the elevator straight up to the crown of the head. Ding, you're enlightened.
A nice straight line. Root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown. Easy.
But this yogi, relying on what he calls his open eye internal vision, his own direct empirical observation of energy, he says there is a massive detour.
Yeah. This part blew my mind.
He claims that for most people seeking this spiritual high, the energy rises from the root, it hits the sacral, it hits the solar plexus, and then it skips.
It skips the heart.
It bypasses the heart chakra entirely on the way up. It just jumps straight from the stomach to the throat, then the third eye, and then the crown.
Unbelievable.
And he even talks about an eighth chakra hovering above the physical body, where the ego just dissolves into the void of non-duality.
Wait, so you're telling me you can get to the penthouse, you can access high-level intuition, psychic phenomena, God consciousness, without ever actually activating your heart?
According to him, absolutely yes. And honestly, this is a massive insight. It completely explains the spiritual jerk phenomenon.
Oh, the spiritual jerk, yes.
We have all met someone who is incredibly advanced spiritually. Maybe they have visions or this intense laser focus, or they can quote every line of scripture, but they are ice cold as a person.
Or just wildly arrogant, like the guru who demands total, unquestioning obedience from their followers but lacks basic human empathy.
Exactly. Because the circuitry is incomplete. He calls this the head trap. You have the awareness, but you completely lack the connection. You've broken the knot of the third eye so you can see the truth, but you haven't broken the knot of the heart.
So you can't feel the truth.
Right.
So if the energy shoots past the heart just to get to the head, does it ever come back? Or are you just stuck up in the attic forever?
Well, that right there is his entire definition of spiritual maturity. He argues that the ascent going up is really just the first half of the journey.
Just the warm-up.
Yeah, it's the leaving home phase. True maturity only happens when the Kundalini energy actually descends. It has to come back down from the crown and finally settle in the heart.
It's a loop. You go up to get the perspective, but then you have to come back down to actually live it.
Precisely. And he shares a really specific personal benchmark for when this happened to him. Remember, he hit the big high at 19.
Right.
But he says it wasn't until he was 37, nearly 20 full years later, that he finally saw the color green during his meditation practice.
And green is the frequency of the heart chakra.
Yes. For almost 2 decades, he had seen the white light, the violet, the indigo, all those upper management colors.
Upper management colors is perfect.
But seeing green meant the circuit was finally complete. That marked his definitive shift from God consciousness, which is abstract and vast and very solitary, to love and duty.
Love and duty. You know, those two words don't usually hang out together in modern wellness circles.
They really don't.
Love sounds very soft and warm, whereas duty sounds rigid and hard. But he seems to think they are exactly the same thing.
That is the absolute crux of his philosophy. To him, the heart isn't just about having warm, sentimental feelings for humanity. The heart is about relational obligation.
It's about being functional.
Yes. And he grounds this idea in some very old, very heavy-hitting texts. He talks a lot about the Bhagavad Gita in the source material.
Oh, right. The story of Arjuna. For those listening who might not know it, Arjuna is this great warrior. He's standing on a battlefield looking across the enemy lines, and he realizes he's fighting his own cousins and his former teachers.
It's a devastating moment.
He basically has a panic attack. He drops his bow and says, I can't do this. I'm going to go live in the forest and just be a monk. I renounce the world.
Which, to a modern ear, sounds like the moral, enlightened choice. I choose peace. I choose the forest.
Right.
But Krishna, the divine voice in the story, he stops him. He says, no. You are a warrior. This battlefield is your post. To run away to the forest right now isn't spirituality. It's cowardice disguised as piety.
Oof. Cowardice disguised as piety. That is a line that stings.
It's supposed to sting. The core lesson there is that your dharma, your duty, is the actual path to God. You don't find the divine by avoiding your role in society. You find it by fulfilling that role perfectly.
And what's fascinating is how our blind yogi connects this Hindu epic to his own Islamic faith, because he's very, very universalist in his approach.
Oh, completely. I love the theology and geography lesson he gave in the source.
Yeah. He wasn't just talking about prophets appearing in the Middle East.
No, he was dropping pins all over the globe. He mentions prophets being sent to Australia, to New Zealand, to China. He specifically talks about ancient Native Americans receiving divine messengers.
His point being that the divine isn't the property of one specific zip code or one rigid religious label. The divine is universal.
And if the divine is everywhere, then the divine is in your office. It's in your morning commute. It's sitting across from you at family dinner. He says being surrendered to God is about belief in the unseen, prayer, and charity, not just wearing a specific label.
Which perfectly leads us to the part of the source material that I honestly found the most challenging.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Because it's one thing to sit here and say work is worship philosophically. It sounds great on a podcast. But it is another thing entirely to act the way this guy acted in an actual corporate setting.
You're talking about the 5 a.m. story.
I am talking about the 5 a.m. story. Let's dig into that. Because reading it, it felt excessive.
It is extreme. So to set the scene, he's working for a company that is in serious financial trouble. He's been brought in to help fix it. His contract is standard, probably an 8 to 4:30 type deal.
Sure.
But he starts showing up at 5 a.m. every single morning. Unpaid.
Unpaid.
Unpaid. And he's often staying until midnight.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for the listener.
Yeah.
In today's work culture, we would instantly call that toxic productivity. We'd say he's letting himself be exploited by a corporation.
Absolutely, we would.
Why would a spiritual master let himself be used like that?
See, he didn't view it as being used at all. He saw it as keeping his word. His logic was, I am the one facing the clients. I signed the employment contract. If this company fails, all these staff members lose their livelihoods.
So he viewed his employment contract as a literal spiritual covenant.
Exactly. It wasn't about pleasing the boss.
He wasn't trying to get a gold star.
No. He explicitly says in the source, if you take the money, you owe them your fullest capacity. Now, if the pay is terrible or the boss is a jerk, you can quit. That is always your right.
Right.
But to stay, to cash the paycheck and only give 50% effort, to him, that is theft. It's a fundamental violation of your own integrity.
It's his whole concept of pitching up.
Pitch up. Be impeccable. And you do it not for the company, but for your own soul. If you are sloppy in your daily work, you are going to be sloppy in your spirit.
And he really proved that this wasn't just about being a workaholic or some secret desire to get rich. Because right after that, we get to the culture versus cash moment.
Oh, the ultimate test.
This is the story that really proves the guy walks the walk. It's a golden handcuffs moment.
Yeah. So he manages to turn this failing company completely around. They are suddenly making money hand over fist. The owners are absolutely thrilled with him.
Naturally.
So they offer him the keys to the kingdom, a full directorship, and a 25% stake in the company.
And just to be clear, this isn't a local lemonade stand. This is a firm dealing with Fortune 500 level clients.
We are talking millions of dollars, generational wealth. Plus, they told him he could have a luxury home and any luxury car of his choice. He would be completely set for life.
And he says no.
He resigns almost immediately.
Why? I mean, honestly, take the money and donate it to charity if you're so spiritually advanced. Why just quit?
Because of the culture of the management. He felt that the leadership didn't treat the regular staff with equality. He felt their underlying ethos was fundamentally exploitative.
Wow.
So he looked at the millions of dollars, and then he looked at his conscience, and he decided he simply couldn't align his heart with their head.
That is a level of discipline that is really hard to wrap your head around because most people, and I'm definitely including myself here, would probably say, you know what, I'll take the millions now, and then I'll be ethical later.
Right, the classic, I'll change the system from the inside argument.
Exactly.
But he knew that was a lie. He knew that you cannot build a solid spiritual life on a compromised foundation. It all goes right back to that chakra anatomy we talked about earlier.
The head versus the heart.
Right, the ego, the head, it loves security, it loves status, it really loves the free Tesla. But the heart loves connection and fairness and integrity, and he refused to violate the heart just to feed the ego.
It seems like his entire relationship with money is just completely different from the norm. He treats it almost like water. It flows in, it flows out. It's not something to build a dam around and hoard.
He sees it purely as a tool for service. There's that incredible story he tells about emptying his bank account to help a family member.
Oh, the $100,000 story.
Yes. A close family member was in serious trouble, and he just drained his entire account. $100,000. Literally every cent he had to his name.
Just gone.
And his logic was so simple. He just said, I can make more money, but I can't take it with me when I die.
That is radical detachment in practice.
But you know what I found to be the most beautiful part of the source material? It was how he contrasted that massive sum of money, the $100,000, with a tiny, tiny amount from when he was a kid.
The library story. Yes, I highlighted this part too. Let's talk about that.
So he's 15 years old. He's walking to the local library, and he crosses paths with a beggar. He thinks it might have been a Hare Krishna devotee.
Right.
And 15-year-old him just empties his pockets. It wasn't much money at all, maybe enough to buy a sandwich.
Yes, his weekly pocket money.
But he says the smile on that man's face when he handed over the coins gave him a feeling that was more powerful, more memorable, and infinitely more spiritual than any meditative trance he ever achieved in the next 30 years of his life.
That right there is the core of it, isn't it? The trance versus the smile.
It really is. Think about the difference. A trance is inherently solitary. You sit with your eyes closed, you are alone in the universe. It's just you floating in the void.
But a smile,
A smile requires two people. It requires a relationship. It demands that you actually see someone else and that they see you.
and that explains exactly why the heart is the final destination. The crown chakra is all about I am God, but the heart chakra is God is in you.
Exactly. The heart is where I finally becomes we. And that is why he argues so passionately that service to others is a higher spiritual station than meditation.
Which he backs up with his own life. He's been doing energy healing for 50 years now.
50 years, and he says 99% of that work was done completely for free.
And even when he does charge a client, if someone comes to him who is severely at risk and they can't afford to pay, he helps them anyway.
He helps them anyway, even to the point where he admits he has sometimes put his own physical health at risk. He's taken on heavy, energetic burdens from sick people, because for him, the instinct to serve completely overrides the basic human instinct to survive.
It is a total inversion of what we normally think of as spiritual escapism. He's basically looking at us and saying, don't go to the cave to find God. Go to the hospital. Go to the office. Go help your neighbor carry their groceries.
And it raises such an important question for anyone listening to this right now. We have this tendency to neatly compartmentalize our lives.
Oh, for sure. Work-life balance, right?
Right. We have our spiritual time, which is yoga, meditation, going to a Sunday service. And then we have the grind, which we view as this annoying obstacle to our peace. But this source is coming in and saying, no, the grind is the practice.
The obstacle is the way.
The Monday morning blues are not an interruption of your spiritual life. They are the test. When you are dealing with a totally unreasonable client or crying baby at 3 a.m. or a massive traffic jam, that is your battlefield. That is your Arjuna moment.
You can either check out, retreat into your mental forest, and just phone it in for the rest of the day.
Or you can choose to stay. You can engage. You can perform your duty with excellence and treat every single person involved with dignity, even if they don't necessarily deserve it in that moment.
And that, according to our blind Muslim yogi, is how you finally find the green light.
That is how the energy descends. You take all that vast, cool, detached awareness from the crown and you bring it all the way down into the warm, messy, complicated reality of the heart. You stop trying to escape the world and you start trying to bless it.
You know, it's weirdly comforting. It really takes the pressure off. I don't need to save up to move to an ashram in the Himalayas. I don't need to figure out how to float in a void of non-dual awareness. I just need to show up to my actual life and try to be decent.
You just need to pitch up. And when you inevitably feel that resistance, that strong desire to run away or to zone out or to just be cynical about everything, you have to recognize it for what it actually is.
Which is?
It's not spiritual detachment. It's just the ego trying to avoid doing the hard work of the heart.
Man, so here is the ultimate takeaway for this deep dive. The highest chakra isn't the one floating in the ether above your head. It's the one beating right there in your chest, the one that connects you to your family, your colleagues, and your daily responsibilities.
It's a spirituality that invites you in rather than asking you to check out.
Absolutely. So I want to leave everyone listening with a challenge for the week ahead. The next time you find yourself in a situation that feels like an absolute drag, maybe it's a meeting that definitely could have been an email or a massive pile of laundry or a really difficult conversation you've been putting off. Ask yourself this: what if this friction isn't a distraction from my growth? What if this friction is actually the exact mechanism for my maturity?
If the pure bliss of escape is really a trap, then maybe that highly stressful Tuesday morning meeting is the only place where true spiritual growth can actually happen.
Heavy stuff, but also incredibly grounding. Thank you so much for guiding us through the source material today.
Always a pleasure to dive in with you.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.